Just imagine, if you will, there's two retailers very often in the same town. And the question that I've often asked myself is that why is it that one retailer can generate twice as much turnover with virtually the same opportunities and the same resources as the other one? How is it possible that two retailers can generate vastly different sums of money even though they have similar products, similar services, similar opportunities? And if we can understand what the high-performing retailer is doing and then apply those same principles into your retail outlet, then you're going to get the same results. My dad, that's my dad, he was born in Penzance in Cornwall. He was in retail all of his life. And I had the privilege of working with him for about 5 years in my early career. And I learned a lot from him. And he was very well known for transforming what I would call failing stores into thriving successes. He got a reputation for that, especially when he was working for a large organization. But when he decided to go into his own business as a retailer, he really struggled. In fact, he tried 3 different retail businesses and he struggled every time. And I've often wondered what it was that caused him to struggle so much, because he was very talented when he was working as a manager. He had lots of skills. He was very good with customers, very good with staff, a great leader. So what happened when he went into his own retail business? Did he suddenly lose all of those talents and those skills? Did they suddenly disappear? Well, of course not. You know that that's not going to happen. My belief and my conviction is that what happened was that he was unable to communicate his value to the marketplace in such a way that they would pay him well for his products and services. So it wasn't that he didn't have a good showroom. It wasn't that he didn't have the skills and the talents and the products. He was just unable, for whatever reason, to communicate that value to the marketplace in such a way that he'd get paid well for his excellence. Wow. So the key difference between the two retailers that I showed you in my earlier example is value, okay? Because value is everything. And the first lesson in economics is that you get paid primarily for value. So if you want to generate more turnover in your business, then you need to have a look at your value that you're providing for your customers. Now, when I talk about value, I'm not talking about the value of your shop. That's important. Or the value of your products, or your stylish website. Of course, those things are vital. Those things are important. But I'm talking about your personal value. What skill sets and what talents are you bringing to the marketplace that is attracting the kind of clients or customers that are going to pay for your services? Because no one will ever pay you what you are worth, okay? No one will ever pay you what you are worth. They'll only ever pay you what they think you're worth. And as Casey Brown says, you control their thinking. And the way you control their thinking is by identifying and communicating your value in such a way that you get paid well for your excellence. It's essential that you communicate your value in such a way that you get paid well for your excellence. And when I speak to the various retailers, so typically the kind of people I speak to, they've established retailers, they've got a business that's been around for about 4 or 5 years, they're doing well, but they're just trying to get to the next level. They're not quite sure how to do it. And at that stage, they're happy to look at some kind of external help. They're willing to engage a coach or a mentor or someone who can help them with the business to help them really maximize the skills that they have. In other words, we're not in a position where I'm going to try and... I don't have to convince them. That's really what I'm trying to say. So here are the kind of questions that I get asked a lot. How can I sell my products at a sensible price? How can I spend more time selling high-value items? How can I get a better quality customer? Does that ring any bells? How can I train my staff? How can I handle conflict resolution? That was an interesting one. I had that from a carpeting company in Birmingham. He had a few problems with that. How do I make the margins that I used to make? And that's a real issue these days with the internet, especially with retail stores. How do I generate a better kind of lifestyle? Sometimes they'll ask me, who are you? What do you do? What's your background? Does my methodology work? How am I going to help them? How am I going to help them individually? What's included in the training? What's excluded in the training? And how do you measure results? How much will it cost? And how long will it take? So those are the many, many questions that I get asked. And I can answer all of those questions. But what's interesting, in the three most common questions that I get over and over again is, the first one is, how can I get my business to run smoothly? And that might be something that we all want. We all want a business that's going to run smoothly. You open the showroom, it's going to do what it says we hoped it would do. We're going to get customers through the door. How can I get that business to run smoothly like I want it to? The next one is, how can I maintain a decent turnover with sensible margins? I get a lot of people who increase the turnover, but because they're so busy price matching, the margins go down and they're actually making less than when they were doing more turnover a few years ago, or less turnover a few years ago. And then the last question is, how can my business deliver the lifestyle that I want? Because let's face it, most retailers who go into business, my dad included, and when I went into my business, I wanted a business that I could enjoy, I could have fun with, that I believed in, but ultimately I wanted to deliver a kind of lifestyle that is important to me. And those are the three key questions that I get asked. Now, in order for this to work, three things need to happen. For that to actually work for your business, three things need to happen. The first thing is that you need to have the right customers. Sounds obvious, but if you've got the wrong customers coming into the store, you're not going to be able to sell very many products. The next point is that you need to have the right product mix in that shop. And you may want to have a look at that and decide, are these the products that I really should be selling and want to sell? And then lastly, you need to be able to identify, as we've mentioned earlier, and communicate your value to the marketplace. Now, all three of these things need to be in sync. So during my research, I discovered that, as I mentioned earlier, that the top retailers in the country have 7 key principles that are running in their business, okay? And I call it the 7 success secrets of high-performing retailers. Now, why do I call them the 7 success secrets of high-performing retailers? Well, just to give you an example, last year I was speaking on the main stage at the Autumn Fair. And on the same stage was Theo Pathetis from Dragon's Den. Not at the same time, obviously, but we were on the same stage. And when I was getting mic'd up and ready, I was speaking to the sound engineer, and I said, how's the talks been going? He said, yeah, they've been going really good. He said, but interestingly, the person that I learned least from was Theo Pathetis. So I said, that's interesting. And it wasn't that Theo wasn't an inspiring speaker. He attracted a massive crowd. They had to double the size of the area to get the audience in. He was very interesting. People know him from Dragon's Den. He's a multi-millionaire, so why wouldn't he attract a crowd? However, he was unable to communicate his principles and his methodology in a way that the audience could go away and say, yeah, if I do that, I can be rich like Theo. He just wasn't able to do that. It was only when I read his book, his biography, that I started unpicking the principles that he had applied in his life from a little boy and putting them into some kind of a logical sequence that I could see why he'd become so successful. So very often people who are very successful don't actually know why they're successful. They kind of know, but they can't really pin it down. And these 7 success secrets of high-performing retailers is the same principle for all successful retailers around the country. and of course successful businesses. The principles apply the same. So this is not about methodology, it's about raising your sights and looking and being really sure of what you want. And the first success principle is that you really need to dream, dare to dream, I call it, okay? We're in an environment where there's so much commotion going on, there's so much bad news. Are we in Brexit? Are we out of Brexit? What's the economy going to do? All of these things are genuine concerns that we have, and if we're not careful, that's all we're going to focus on. There's a wonderful book called 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you've heard of him. And he's a multi-million pound best-selling book around the world. And he says that what you aim at determines what you see. What you aim at determines what you see. So if you only see, I've got to pay the overheads, I must pay the VAT, I've got to pay the corporation tax, then you'll only see the opportunities. If that's your aim, you'll only see the opportunities to do that. But if your aim is to dream a little bit, what kind of lifestyle do you want? Do you want to be financially independent? If that's your aim, then you're going to start to see opportunities that will help you to achieve that. The second success secret is you need to develop a clear sense of purpose. And that includes three things: vision, goals, and reason. In other words, the why. Now, vision isn't about looking to the future with rose-tinted glasses. It's about looking to the future with reality check. There's a wonderful phrase in the book of Proverbs that says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Now, that's kind of pretty scary, isn't it? Where there is no vision, the people perish. And really what that's saying is just look to the future with reality. If I carry on doing what I'm currently doing, what's really going to happen? Is it looking good or is it looking bad? If it's looking good, that's great. If it's looking not so good, it's time to do something about it. The second part is make sure you've got goals. In other words, goals are going to translate your dreams into reality. We're going to put into some kind of action plan. And then the third thing is really understanding why you're doing these things in the first place. What is your motivation? What's behind what you're doing? For me, I think a lot about my dad. You know, he's no longer with us, but you know, he was in retail all his life. He started his trade in Penzance in Cornwall. In fact, a chap who used to work with him came up and introduced himself to me just now when he heard the announcement. He worked with my dad. I couldn't believe that, 40, 50 years ago. It's unbelievable. I was really pleased to meet him. The next part of the next success secret is you really need to do what you love to do. Okay? Now this might sound like an obvious question, but it's really important that you enjoy what you're doing. And if you're not enjoying what you're doing, you need to ask yourself a question, and that is, how can I help other people love what I do? Because when you take the focus off of yourself, it's amazing how much more you will enjoy what you're doing. So if we just raise our sights a little bit to those people who are in the store, and also your staff. Helping your staff enjoy what you're doing is a great way to learn to love what you do. The next step is learning to become a highly valued retailer. Okay? Again, this comes back to your own skill sets. Have a look, and you might want to write this down. Have a look at what talents do you have? And they may not seem obvious in the beginning, and it might be worth chatting to a trusted friend or a family member and asking, you know, what talents do I have? What am I not using that I have that could benefit the business? Now, a classic example of this is Rob James. He is an interior designer. He's got a lovely interior design showroom in Chandler's Ford. And he had the same problem that many of you have, that customers coming into the store, looking at the products, and then trying to beat him down on price from the internet. And he realized that I'm an interior designer, you know. I'm sure I can use that skill set. And what he did was he offered his services to his clients. He'd go into their home and offer a free service, and he would give them a bit of an idea and a design layout of what they could buy, and sometimes they'd buy from him and sometimes they wouldn't. After a few months, he started charging an £85 call-out fee, and they paid, non-refundable. A few months later, he started creating this lighting design service, and he would go into these homes and he'd offer a complete lighting design service. And guess how much he charged? £750. Again, that's without the products. And they paid. After a few months, and this is what he was telling me at my last show when I was speaking in Birmingham recently, an expert in the industry came to him and said, you're undercharging. You know, what you're offering, you're undercharging. He literally doubled his fee to £1,500, and they paid. Remarkably. Now, we're not all Rob James, we're not all interior designers, so what I'm hoping that you'll hear from this is what talents and gifts and skills do you have that you can bring to your retail. It may be a free service, it may be a chargeable service, but the major difference between you and your competitors is you, and you have a unique set of talents and gifts that you can bring to your business that will transform your business, as long as you're communicating that value effectively. So the next part of the process is, obviously you need to dedicate yourself to service. That's important. But you know what? Everybody gives great service. You have to start with that premise that your competitors are giving good service anyway. So you need to do something different. And what I found from my experience when I'm in with retailers is the ones that give exceptional service are the ones that I go back to. In other words, they do something a little bit extraordinary, something a little bit different, something that you wouldn't normally expect. And those are the kind of shops that I will go back to, and I'm sure you will as well. But you cannot give exceptional service to everybody. It's impossible, because you'll go out of business. And that's why it's really important, as we spoke about earlier, making sure you've got the right customers, that you identify who your target customer is, who do you want in that store. Because if you don't know who your ideal customer is, then you're not going to make plans to attract that customer into your showroom, if that makes sense. Now, with all of these principles to work, we need to be able to implement self-discipline. Now, that sounds like an old kind of thing. Self-discipline, what are you talking about? All of these ideas just remain ideas unless we implement them, and that requires regular, daily self-discipline. So you get a new idea, and you develop the disciplines to help you to develop those talents to help you to implement them into your business. And then closely linked to that is persistence. They kind of go hand in hand, but unless you're persisting, unless you're pushing through, again, you're not going to get the results that you should be getting and can get and deserve to get. Now, what we're going to be doing at that workshop is 5 things. Okay, I call it my 5-step methodology. Call it your 5-step formula, and we're going to help you with your vision. Okay, we're going to have a dare to dream strategy and get really clear about what's important to you. And if you want to begin the process, start writing down what you really want. Okay, give yourself free rein of the kind of things that you want to achieve. Okay, and don't limit yourself. The second part of the process is that we will help you to clarify your purpose. In other words, we're going to help you to really understand why you're in this business in the first place. Because if you don't know why you're in the business, if you don't have a strong enough reason to be in the business in the first place, you're not going to pay the price to get the results you want. Because retail is tough. Retail is not an easy industry. It never has been. I don't think it ever will be. But the rewards and the satisfaction that you get is immense, and it can provide you with the lifestyle that's important to you if you allow it. We're then going to help you to develop an action plan so you can achieve those dreams that you want. We'll then help you to implement your action plan, because unless you take actions, unless you implement the actions, if it's not clear, you're not going to make strides towards your lifestyle. And then lastly, we're going to help you and show you how to monitor and measure your progress. If you're not monitoring and measuring your progress, you have no idea if you're making progress at all. You might even be going backwards. It's really important to measure both of those. It's really, really important. So to sum up, what we've found is that most retailers go into retail because they want to live a certain kind of lifestyle. They want the business to provide them with a certain kind of lifestyle. That's crucial. And if you implement the 7 success secrets that I've spoken about, and if you apply this 5-step methodology, you will begin your journey to developing your business so that it provides you with the kind of lifestyle that you want and deserve. Thank you very much.